Welcome to our lesson on photosynthesis. The key questions for today are 1. What is photosynthesis? 2. Why is photosynthesis described as endothermic? 3. What affects the rate of photosynthesis? 4. How do you calculate the rate of photosynthesis? 5. What limits the rate of photosynthesis? The key words you will need to know today are reactants, products, rate, limiting factor, intensity. Photosynthesis is the endothermic reaction carried out by plants in order to synthesize their own food in the form of glucose. It's described as an endothermic reaction because it takes in energy from the surroundings in the form of light energy from the sun. The sun's energy is taken in by the chloroplasts, where it provides the energy for the photosynthesis reaction to take place. The reactants for the reaction are carbon dioxide and water, which are made into the products, which are oxygen and glucose. Task. Where does a plant obtain the reactants for photosynthesis? Plants take in carbon dioxide from the air through the stomata in the leaves and water from the soil through the roots. Photosynthesis takes place in the leaves of a plant. The cells on the upper surface of the leaves, the palisade cells, have many chloroplasts to absorb the light energy. The word equation for photosynthesis is as follows. This reaction always requires light, as energy is required to assemble the glucose molecule. The symbol equation for photosynthesis is as follows. Notice that the equation is balanced so that there are the same amount of each different atom on both sides of the equation. Task. What are the products of this photosynthesis reaction? The products of the reaction are glucose and oxygen. The glucose can be stored or used by the plant in respiration, and the oxygen is released into the surroundings through the stomata on the leaves. The rate of photosynthesis is how much takes place per unit of time. Rates can be determined by measuring the production of the products or the using up of the reactants. When determining the rate of photosynthesis, it's easiest to measure either water uptake or oxygen production. We can then use these measurements and the time they were taken over to find the rate. A rate is the amount a quantity changes divided by the time it takes for that change. So we could use either the following or this. Task. Calculate the rate of photosynthesis if 20 centimeters cubed of carbon dioxide was produced in 100 seconds. And here's the answer. Extension. Calculate the rate of photosynthesis if 150 centimeters cubed of water was taken in 5 minutes. To calculate the rate, we must usually convert minutes into seconds. So 5 minutes is 300 seconds. So the rate is 150 divided by 300, which equals 0.5 centimeters cubed per second. The factors that affect the rate of photosynthesis are the light intensity, which means the amount of light incident on the leaves. If the light is coming from an artificial source, as the distance away increases, the light intensity decreases. The light intensity is inversely proportional to the distance squared. This is known as the inverse square law. We can think of this as the light from a source shining on a square area. As we double the distance of the light source away, the area that the light covers is 4 times as big, so there is less light energy per unit of area. Task. Hold a torch near to a flat surface and move it away slowly. What do you notice about the brightness of the light on the wall? You should see that as distance increases, the area of the light is larger, but the brightness decreases. The availability of carbon dioxide for the plant to take in. This is important as carbon dioxide is a reactant in the reaction. Without it, the plant cannot perform photosynthesis. The temperature the plant is kept at. This is important as photosynthesis, like most reactions, is enzyme controlled. Enzyme activity increases as the temperature increases, so this speeds up the reaction. However, if the temperature gets too high, the enzymes will be denatured, so will no longer facilitate the reaction, and the rate of the reaction will drop dramatically. This means that increasing temperature up to the optimum, increasing the light intensity, and increasing the amount of carbon dioxide available will all increase the rate of photosynthesis. The amount of chlorophyll in the leaves will also affect the rate of photosynthesis, as it is the green chlorophyll that absorbs the sunlight. What does this all mean, however, if that one of these factors will always be a limiting factor? A limiting factor is the factor that is responsible for limiting the rate of the reaction. For example, even if the carbon dioxide available was still increasing, the rate of photosynthesis will eventually stop increasing. This means that something else is limiting the rate, such as light intensity. The graph shows how the rate of photosynthesis changes as the light intensity, carbon dioxide concentration, and temperature increase. You can see that on both the light intensity and carbon dioxide concentration graphs, the line levels off and becomes horizontal. This means that the rate stops increasing and becomes constant, showing that there is something else acting as a limiting factor. The temperature graph shows the rate increasing as temperature increases up to an optimum temperature. This is when the rate is highest. The rate then decreases as the enzymes become denatured. Task. The graph from an AQA exam question shows how temperature affects the rate of photosynthesis. How does the rate of photosynthesis change as the temperature is increased? Extension. Why do you think the rate remains constant between 22 and 27 degrees C? The rate of photosynthesis increases from 2.5 to 30 before levelling off, then the rate decreases down to 26. The rate remains constant between 22 and 27 degrees Celsius due to another limiting factor, such as light intensity, carbon dioxide availability, or the amount of chlorophyll in the leaves. Task. What would be the most economical temperature to keep these plants at, and why? The plants would be best kept at around 22 degrees Celsius, as this is the lowest temperature that gives the highest rate of photosynthesis. Farmers need to grow plants in the most economical conditions so they can increase the amount of growth of the plants by ensuring the fastest rate of photosynthesis for the smallest cost. This can be done by keeping plants warm in a greenhouse, using lights at night time, and increasing the amount of carbon dioxide available in the greenhouse.